The Blues make history tonight. Count them up, 11 straight wins. Nobody said it had to be pretty, but the Blues walk away with a 5-4 overtime victory over the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is the Blues Hub Postgame Show. I'm your host, Ethan Hannaford. Joined tonight, we're rolling 3 deep, baby. We got Jacob Stanoch and Brandon Gallegos making his Sports Hub STL debut.
Yo.
We're going to get to all of it in just a moment, but first, a reminder that the Blues Hub Postgame Show is sponsored by Hot Shots here on Sports Hub STL and presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Boys, there is a lot to discuss with this one tonight. And as I said in my quick little intro there, no one said it had to be pretty. It started off a little bit slow for St. Louis tonight, but we saw a lot of tough fight. We saw a lot of grit. And in the end, they end up holding on and walking away with, like I said, an 11th straight victory. Jacob, I'll start with you. Biggest takeaways overall from tonight's victory?
I think the best way to put it, in the words of Bob Uecker in Major League, they did it, oh my God, they did it. And I think that's just the best way to wrap it up. The Joe Boo magic is in the building, and man, I think I've thrown out my shoulder, both of them at this point, the way I've been fist pumping the past 2 games with these overtime wins. And man, again, this was the kind of similar to Detroit where it seemed like something was off. And I was saying on Tuesday, they just couldn't get anything going. They had the opportunities. They just couldn't get it clicking. Today, it seemed like they didn't have anything clicking after that first 20 minutes. It seemed to me it was, it's only a 1-0 game, but it almost feels lost just because nothing was going their way. And then they flipped it in the second. They had the beauty goals, kind of a crummy goal. That second Penguins goal, I thought it should have been, personally, I thought that should have come back. I thought the pad of Hofer was shoved on that last attempt to put it over the goal line, but, still counts either way. But, I mean, the Kyrou goal was beautiful. Followed up that 4th goal of the game to wrap, or right before or in the third, Snuggerud, that first point in the NHL on a beautiful assist, and then Thomas with the snipe on that power play in overtime. And it just seemed like a game that it was going against the Blues at every single level. And I think the biggest one was just the hockey gods didn't want them to win. But man, the Blues just refuse to lose right now. And I think that's just the best way to put it. They're refusing to lose. It doesn't even matter if they only have a 40-minute game. They still find a way to win. And that's what they did tonight.
Brandon, thoughts on the win tonight?
Yeah, so it turns out going 0 for 4 on the power play through 3 periods of play is not necessarily the recipe for winning. Turns out tonight it is. I talked about this right before we hopped on here. You go into the overtime thinking, man, did we give this one away if we didn't execute on those power plays? At one point, 38 seconds of 5-on-3, I might add. Especially versus these teams late in the year that you're supposed to beat. You put the lineup combinations, Penguins versus the Blues tonight. You're thinking the Blues should take care of business. If they don't pull it off in overtime, man, it is. There's some anger after a loss like this.
It doesn't matter how many wins in a row you have. They wouldn't have pulled it off tonight with the opportunities that they had. I don't want to know what the reaction from Blues fans across the region would have been. Listen, we want you guys to interact with us here on the stream. We want your thoughts, your questions on the Blues victory tonight. Listen, Hulk Hogan's t-shirt, he's always a great supporter. This might be his best comment I have ever seen. Amazing what happens when you shoot the puck on the power play instead of being Disney on ice skaters. Wow, Brandon.
That is incredible. First off, I want to hear the backstory behind this name. Maybe a PG-13 version if you can in the chat there. But my goodness, I mean, yeah, that is. I can hear my father just yelling "shoot" at the TV screen. There are times where your talent can get in the way, especially in height, where your talent, where you're looking for the perfect pass, you're looking for the perfect shot. Sometimes the best thing you do, Jake Neighbors is the perfect example of this. Sometimes the best thing you got to do is get in front of the net, and good things will happen.
things kind of got going pretty quickly for Pittsburgh in this one. Not necessarily for the Blues. They got on the board early in this one, and I think that we could all agree that there were quite a few defensive blunders tonight, which has been something that, in my opinion, has been pretty uncharacteristic for St. Louis during this run. But tonight, there was a couple of misplays, and it led to their first goal of the game. A couple of turnovers, a lead to Pittsburgh being able to keep it in their zone. McGroarty ends up carrying it up the wall, back facing the goal. He dips it off to Brian Rust, who was left wide open. A little bit of puck watching there from Mr. Justin Falk. And he walks right in and he puts a nasty move on Joel Hofer and gets the scoring going 1-0. Jacob, what did you see on that interaction? And really, just for in the first period in general, that kind of had the Blues felt like something that's been rare of late, a step behind going into the first intermission.
I mean, it was a tough goal. I will agree, a lot of puck watching. You kind of have to hand it for, again, I'm the kind of hockey watcher where, obviously I'm a Blues fan through in and throughout. And, my way of coping with how the season was beforehand was saying, oh, there's still the other team played a good game as well. That's kind of how I viewed the first goal. It was a good goal by Pittsburgh, I thought, leading up to it, and they got into the dirty areas. Russ makes a good move up tight and able to bury it away past Hofer. And I think that's another thing you kind of have to hand it to Pittsburgh. They did a good job of getting in the tough areas of the game. Again, looking at that first goal, it did feel a little heartbreaking. But again, going back to kind of like the Detroit game, it didn't really, oh, I'm mad they scored, but it's only 1-0 early on in the first. We've seen what they've done over and over again, especially throughout this stretch here. And it obviously, as a fan, it shockingly didn't have too much effect other than, damn it, they scored. And that was pretty much it. Outside of that.
Brandon, Hulk Hogan's t-shirt giving us a little bit of context here as to the reasoning behind the name. It says, I'm the shirt that the Hulkster would rip off before his matches and throw to all the Hulk A maniacs. So, there's your reasoning. So you got what you asked for. But anyway, I agree with what you said there, Jacob. But yeah, overall slow start. Kudos to Pittsburgh for their gritty style of play. Several guys banged up throughout during this one for St. Louis tonight. Boy, was that second period not kind to the Blues. And, well, I guess it really started in the first period. And the most notable one happened in the first period when Dylan Holloway is hit into the boards and he exits the game and doesn't return. They're calling it a lower body injury. And they're saying that it was more, at least what they said on the broadcast tonight, what JK said was more precautionary than anything. But, boy, I tell you what, hearing that he's not returning, your heart stops for a second because while there has been a lot of impactful players during this stretch run for St. Louis, Dylan Holloway has been just as important as any of them, Brandon.
Yeah, the medical staff, they were just active tonight, man. I mean, you had guys dropping like flies at one point. You had Shin struggling to get up. You had Folk. He got hurt at one point. I mean, obviously, Thomas left the game there for a second and he comes back. Busy night. Dylan Holloway, here's the thing. I'm not freaking out. What do I know? I'm not on the medical staff, but you get this late in the season. And do you want to rush them back into this game in the early April when you had a 95% playoff chance to make it, 95% chance to make the playoffs? Obviously you always want to win a game, but good teams win games without their top players. I mean, you look at the rest of the league right now. Teams like the Florida Panthers are still competing for their division without a Matthew Tkachuk. There are teams. If you want to win, you got to play without your best players. The Blues did it tonight. They did it again. They've been doing I've been seeing a bunch of complaining. Justin Folk was on the bad end of a few goals tonight. Here's the thing: he's your only right-handed defenseman. So he gets 24 minutes of ice time tonight. That's the Colton Parayko effect right there. At some point, you needed right-handed defensemen in there. You got guys playing on their off wing, and that for those that didn't grow up playing hockey, that makes a difference. It does, especially defensively in your own zone. Man, I tell you what, it was a busy night. You hope Holloway's okay. I'm optimistic he is. But good teams win without him. We won without Parayko the last 11 games, and tonight we won without Holloway. Am I concerned? A little bit, but I think we'll be all right.
Ace Rob has a really good question here regarding Holloway. And, obviously they said we're going to probably find out more tomorrow about what that injury is. But, if Holloway is to be out for the next couple of days or misses a game or two, do you potentially consider bringing back up Dalibor Dvorsky, or do you play a guy, like Matthew Joseph? I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are this before we continue moving through the game recap.
I mean, I think right now it's really dependent on what the trajectory is. I mean, if they are certainly feeling like, hey, we are for sure going to be in the playoffs, we have a chance, I can understand bringing up Dvorsky, get him a couple more games before the season ends. I mean, that's kind of what they're doing with Snuggerud right now. But, at the same time, I would love to see Joseph in there because he's been in that spot all season. I think he's completed that third line just as, working as a whole with Bolduc and Sonny. So, I mean, I honestly think right now it's just kind of up to the mind of Jim Montgomery of what does he want the trajectory of this team? What does he think is going to happen? And what he wants to improve on or just fill a gap, whatever it is, in the next coming games before either what he thinks is a for sure playoff berth or still fighting away every game matters kind of situation, which I think, honestly, in a situation like that, I think you still see Dvorsky in a couple of games, but you're going to see Joseph a lot more. But if it's the other side around, I think either around a 50-50 to maybe even a little bit more Dvorsky, because now that you have the ability with the position they're in right now, I certainly don't think it would be a bad idea to pull up Dvorsky, even if it's just for a handful of games, just to get him more NHL experience.
Brandon?
I mean, it's fun to bring him up, right? I mean, who doesn't want their number one prospect up in April? But I'm gonna lean on the side of caution, and that's fine. The Hulk Hogan T-shirt, he can boo me out of the building for that. But I mean, ultimately, the Blues are getting in the playoffs. I mean, just from a numbers standpoint, that's not even necessarily a question at this point. So are you gearing up for a postseason run like Jacob was saying, or are you getting a guy like Dvorsky some games to meet? Because here's the thing, Dvorsky's not going to play in the playoffs. It's Matthew Joseph would be the guy to step in the postseason. I do not see a Dvorsky stepping in. You play a guy Snuggerud's a different game, different style of game, especially in Minnesota. Very different. To me, Matthew Joseph's playing in your lineup come postseason time. So I'm going to lean that way. But I also know that can be I might be in the minority there.
Can we give some love, please, to our guy Jake Neighbors? I mean,
Yes,
the struggles in the first period, it felt like went away like that with the snap of fingers almost as soon as the second period started. And Jake Neighbors was able to knot things up for the Blues. And you talk about setting the tone. This is a guy, another guy that is a homegrown product as far as being drafted and brought up through the system, and now back-to-back 20-goal seasons, third Blue to end up with his with 20 goals this season. And what a big night that he had tonight. Kudos to I'll say this too, though. I mean, we talked about some of the guys that ended up dealing with getting banged up a little bit tonight. Robert Thomas was a huge piece on that first goal. Beat the center back into the offensive zone, made that a 3-on-2, and he set up Neighbors for that wide open chance. I mean, you almost can't give love to Jake Neighbors without giving it to Robert Thomas because of his patience, his maturity that he shows with the puck on his stick, and he completely set Neighbors up for that one that time, and got the Blues. Felt like it really got the momentum picking up in that second period, which in my opinion, guys, may have been one of the more exciting periods of hockey that we've seen the Blues play this year. For sure. And I mean, talking about Neighbors, I thought his play throughout the game was almost symbolic of his entire season. Because I still remember early on in the season where people saying we need to send Neighbors back down to Springfield, thinking that, he isn't producing. Far from.
where, the expectations set on him before the season, which I didn't think were super high, but eventually he goes into a slump, which is typically what all hockey players happens to most hockey players throughout a season. They'll have a stretch of a few games where they just don't put up many goals or even points. And, Neighbors had a long one, but now, like you said, he's jumped up now to 20 goals this year, and the brunt of them coming here in this stretch following the Four Nations break. And I mean, what can't you say about him? He's getting into the right areas. He's sticking up for teammates. Some of these games where he's throwing fists while also putting up goals. He's moving the puck around. He's putting himself in a great spots. I mean, I think right now Neighbors is one of the most all-around players at the moment with the Blues, especially in the top six. Almost comparable to maybe a younger version of Braden Shen with his style of play right now is kind of what I kind of see out of him with how he's playing. His ability to get rough and still make pretty plays is exactly what I think we signed up for earlier this season with Jake Neighbors, and now he's delivering.
We saw Pavel Buchnevich even things back up after the Blues or after they fell behind 2-1. Pavel Buchnevich knots things up. But I think the biggest moment of that second period, guys, was Cam Fowler's absolute dot to Jordan Kyrou. Somehow Kyrou stays on side, and he ends up breaking away and giving the Blues a 3-2 lead. Brandon, I mean, not just specifically talking about this entire sequence and how impressive it is. Yes, I want to hear your thoughts on it, but also, I mean, just looking at Cam Fowler as a whole and the significance that he has played, especially when it comes down to Parayko going down with the injury, how he has been able to step up, and he has been such a huge piece of this Blues roster. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but thoughts on the goal and then thoughts on Cam Fowler as a whole and how he continues to step up game after game.
Ethan, I'm your closest friend. I'm very used to run-on sentences, and I promise I was listening. I just got to give a shout-out here in the chat. I'm seeing Steve Ott as a possible return. Put on the shoulder pad, Steve Ott. How about Paul Kyrou?
Yeah.
Yeah, bring him back. I'm all about Paul Kyrou. Also, Sarah, welcome, new member. Yeah. Anyways, all right. Back to Ethan's question. I promise I was listening. I'm listening. We'll start with Buchnevich goal. Man, he turned on the Jets, didn't he? Oh my gosh, like a guy that's known for goal scoring for sure. I mean, even in his time in New York, he had some. I mean, he still does raw talent. Can score goals. Hasn't always been a guy that takes it. I mean, he took it pretty close coast to coast. He got the puck sort of on our side of the neutral zone, but then he was gone. And you know what? That shows a couple things. First off, you get to this time of year, no guy's 100%. Everybody's playing injured at this point. So to see a guy do that's encouraging in your top six. Secondly, we've been talking about this. How many guys, when he got that earlier on in the season, how many times were we bringing up his new contract? Just over and over and over. Oh, we get him the new deal, and now he's going to come out and he's going to give us 6 goals. What's going on here? You know what? He's playing, and we need him to. That's what we paid him to do. Cam Fowler, guys, we're talking a lot about we're talking a lot about the Holloway and Broberg pickups. It's as simple as that, and I get it. Offer sheets are fun. Cam Fowler's the biggest steal of the last year. He's the biggest steal. It's not even close. Here's a guy that, I mean, just did his thing in Anaheim. I mean, really went under the radar because of the team they were, but has always been a number one guy. Yeah, exactly, Ben. I agree with you. Let's be real. I'm being real with you. He's a guy who stepped in, and he has been our number one while Parayko's out. Where is this team without Cam Fowler with Parayko going down? Like, remember the original feeling we had when Parayko went down was, man,
yeah,
I thought
it's like, all right, we're back to selling, right? That's what it was.
Very much so, very much so. And you know what, Cam Fowler, and here's another thing that we thought getting him was, okay, Cam Fowler is going to be a great piece, man. We're thinking of him like a Nick Leddy, and they're two different players. Nick Leddy's stay-at-home D-man he's gonna find a great way to get the puck up and out of the zone real quickly. He does that all the time. How many times we've seen him round our own net, gets it up and out? Cam Fowler is a dude who's jumping into the play. I mean, he's winning games in overtime in 3-on-3 hockey, going top shelf backhander. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Is this real world Hulk Hogan? You tell me. I don't know.
We appreciate all of the interaction on the YouTube, including, get this, guys, my father-in-law getting in on the chat.
Yeah.
Who is a Minnesota Wild fan, but also a piece of his heart goes to Jimmy Snuggerud up there in the Minneapolis area. So some love to Michael Bergstrom as well. That is something I didn't have on my bingo card tonight, boys. Not gonna lie.
Hey, shout out to the Twin Cities, man. Gotta give the love back home.
Speaking of Jimmy, there we go. So speaking of Jimmy Snuggerud, though, guys, first career NHL point tonight. I know you guys talked a little bit on the last post-game show after his debut about what you guys thought overall from him. My personal opinion is that from game 1 to game 2, even within game 1, we saw strides, him adjusting, and I thought that continued at a pretty aggressive pace tonight. I thought that the setup on the goal from Neighbors, his second goal of the night, was really pretty, and a lot of mature play tonight from Jimmy Snuggerud. What did you guys take away from the Blues' number 2 prospects, number 2 game?
I mean, I thought overall, I think he had a lot more confidence. Like we said, we talked about him against Detroit, who I certainly said, when you compare him against Dvorsky, there's that different jump between coming up from the AHL for your first game and coming straight out of college for your first NHL game. And, there's a vast difference because in college, you're playing guys who are maybe 2 years younger than you to 2 years to 4 years older than you, if that. In the NHL, you're playing with guys who have 15 years of just hockey experience on you, plus age and all that other stuff. But today it seemed like, obviously you can still see that he's new to the league, but it looked like tonight it was, a kid who's already played, give or take, 30 games in his first season to just 2 games. He was a lot more confident. He was, I think, a lot more comfortable getting into the dirty areas, getting into the corners, up against the boards. He had some great defensive plays as well. Sorry, I got caught by that comment there. I would want a huggy snuggie, to be honest. But no, I thought, and again, also jumping into and even creating some plays, something that, the hockey sensibility, just the simple hockey IQ, it was there from the start. We saw it on Tuesday. And now that he's getting more comfortable to the level of the NHL play, he's already showing those just massive strides, especially when it in the hockey IQ plays and making the smart plays, getting into the right positions, finding the right man, dealing it off to the right places. And that's exactly what he did. And his assist was a beauty. It was a simple 2-on-1. Talk about the odd man rushes. That was another thing I want to shed light on. Pittsburgh did a great job defending the Blues' odd man rushes. How many 2-on-1s were just put away because of a simple stick? They played it incredibly smart. I think most of them were defended by Carlson as well, who did an excellent job. But, look at what Snuggerud did with the one opportunity he had in the odd man rush, slides it over to Neighbors, who pots it away. I think when you look at the fact that the rest of the team had a lot of difficulty and Snuggerud somehow found a way to get that through, even on just a simple 2-on-1, I think that still shows a lot, especially just in this second game. And
I think this comment from Sarah here might be the new thing that we're going to be saying here, guys. Get snuggy with it. I'm a big fan of that one. I like that one. But Hulk Hogan's t-shirts, talking about how Snuggy was skating around with a little bit of attitude tonight. I saw the high IQ of Blues fans. They're recognizing the high IQ that Jimmy Snuggerud is playing with on the ice. And that, as you mentioned, Jacob, that is something really impressive to see from not just a rookie, but a rookie that is, still in the earliest stages of being a rookie. Brandon, your thoughts on Snuggerud tonight?
I mean, what he's doing is impressive. I'll go back quickly to the Four Nations face-off. I mean, you look at the Four Nations face-off, right? Hockey players can play with other hockey players. So you take them from one team, you put them all together on one nation team. So the United States, Canada, Sweden, you had all these teams, right? They can play together. What they worked on most was special teams. That took time. That took actually like some chemistry. So it's impressive. Now bring that back to what Snuggerud's doing here. Snuggerud coming up and playing NHL hockey, he's talented enough. He's big enough. He's got a good enough shot. That's fine. We see rookies do that all the time. Snuggerud coming in the middle of a 10-game win streak, playing out of position on the power play in the bumper spot when he's normally on the left wing hitting absolute one-timers. That is what's more impressive to me, is a guy who's – and that's a pro. He's saying, look, I'm going to play wherever. So put me wherever. I'm going to play in the bumper. And ultimately our power play moves enough where he can shift around and get in a place where he can take a shot. But that's what's impressive to me, because it takes time. That is hard to come in to an NHL power play and be ready to go. Him coming in and playing decent hockey and competing and playing with attitude, that doesn't surprise me. He should. He's a top prospect in the league. He should play with a little bit of confidence. What's impressive is, yes, even though we went 0 for 4 on the power play, it's about the opportunities he's getting. And guess what? When you play good on those special teams, it leads to better 5-on-5 play. And that's what I think we saw on that rush, on that goal. I mean, that assist. And by the way, how cool was that? That Neighbors immediately was like, hey, you go first. Head on down the line. They mentioned that on the broadcast. Head on down the line. And then Sonny picks up the puck, throws it to the bench for him to keep it. They're for him, man. And I think this. I don't think this is just a fun rookie parade. I think he's around to stay for this playoff run. And this is just the beginning. Just the beginning, that's for sure.
Exciting play, no doubt, from Jimmy Snuggerud. I want to discuss this comment from Cameron, and we appreciate all the interaction within the chat tonight. You guys are absolutely buzzing, as are the Blues. 11 wins in a row, boys. Let's go. 2 issues I'm seeing. Number 1, the power play minus OT has been miserable. And number 2, they're struggling to close out the third period. 2 things we need to clean up before the playoffs. I know we commented a little bit on the power play struggles tonight, Brandon. What are your thoughts on the team's struggle tonight, not being able to finish in the third period? I know that we've seen that a couple of times during this win streak, where they've been able to hold on, but it's just by very close down the stretch. What have been your overall takeaways from things getting a little dicey down the stretch in third periods for the Blues?
Well, I mean, there's a few things going on. The first thing, and this is just real because we're human, the Blues are getting the very best of every team they see right now. Every team they see, they're getting the very best of that team. We got the very best of, let's see, April 3rd's Pittsburgh Penguins, who are been out of a playoff spot for a while. We got the very best of them. And so that it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't shock me. At the same time, there are definitely some defensive breakdowns, right? You're going to see late in the game a heavy push, and we saw it tonight. Folk got caught watching the puck, and all of a sudden, a fake shot turns into a pass, turns into a really sneaky goal pass Holfer's right pad there. And look, is it something we need to clean up? Absolutely. Is it part of just late in the season hockey where teams are coming at you with their very best? Is it part of that we're on a 10-game winning streak and every team wants to stop hearing about us? That too. But as far as what I'm seeing on the ice, it's just simply going to come down to the little plays. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but in overtime, Sundqvist comes out, he wins a faceoff, hops off the ice, Kyrou gets on, and bada bing, bada boom, a few minutes later, we win the game. Little things like that. Late in the game, you have Neighbors blocking a puck because it was tied there for a second, and we're like, oh crap, here, like we gotta hang on to this thing. It's little things. It's a block shot here. It's a chip it out and just get it out of the zone at times. It's chipping up the boards. It's a quick exit out of your zone, which I know is a cliche, but it's as simple as a quick fix as that. I don't think I'm sitting here hitting the panic button of, man, can we hold a 2-goal lead? Because, man, go look across the league right now and look at how many teams this is happening to. That we're getting into playoff hockey.
Yeah, I mean, you said it right there. We are well into that point where it feels like the last several games have been that quality of play when it comes to the physicality. So 100% agree with you there. Got to give a quick shout out to my boy Matthew Rocchio. At this point, I'm going to need some reasons why they won't win the whole damn thing. And that's kind of the energy that we're feeling right now in St. Louis, tying the franchise record that they broke back in 2019. We all know how historic that 2019 team was. We also know that there are some differences between, excuse me, this team right now and the 2019 team, and really where they were where the Blues are now compared to where they were back then. So it will be interesting to see if this team is going to be able to make it interesting once we get to playoffs. I think we're just about past if the Blues make it to the playoffs, and more so about like who they're going to be facing. But I tell you what, right now, I would not be wanting to be one of those teams with the chance of facing off against the red-hot St. Louis Blues. That is for darn sure, Jacob.
Yeah, I cannot agree more with that. And I think right now, I mean, you look at, every single team they face, I think you look at, there's still a lot of tough teams. Obviously, back after the Four Nations, they said, the Blues have the easiest schedule to close out the season. Again, they're all professional teams. You saw what they did against the Jets, competed with them right out of the gate, have competed well with a lot of the top teams across the West and in the East as well. And going into the playoffs, I think right now, and I'm just going to say this now, I think we don't need to just get on that 2019 hype train. Like you said, there's a lot of differences, and every season is different. Doesn't matter how similar things are. So, again, as much as I want to see him push forward, I want to put out first, if they lose, we can't just say, everything's down, we need to throw everything away, it was all for nothing, yada, yada, yada. This is just a different spot, like you said. And I think we celebrate what we have now and take that into the playoffs. But looking at this team, they have a possibility. And I think the biggest thing and the biggest difference is they have this I don't even know if it's a refuse to give up attitude. It was it's almost like they just refuse to lose. There's no we're not gonna give up. We're gonna fight till the end. We're not losing this game. We're gonna win the whole damn thing, whether it's the period, whether it's the game, whether it's the stretch of games, whether it's a week, whatever it is. That is the mentality this Blues team, to me, has felt. I mean, there's so many different things. And even, you look back at 2019 and you look at the team now, there's just so many different things when it comes to the glue of the team, how they're sticking together, the mentality of the team. I mean, just the team aspect of the team. This is a team that one of the few teams I've seen, and not just for the Blues, but from when I've been watching hockey in general, a team that is so tight, such a singular entity as a whole. You could call it the Great Barrier Reef with how just one that they are. I mean, it's insane. And obviously every team has a tight-knit, a tight-knit aspect to it. But this is a Blues team that they are so close together. It's something I've never seen before, and it makes me so excited as a hockey fan for not just the end of the season, but the off season, even going into next year. But of course, you got some fun playoffs coming up that I don't think I want to end.
And in a tightness that is all knit around one thing, and that is Jobu. And we will continue to unite and play good hockey behind Jobu. So hey, we got to give some thank you.
Jobu's rum.
We got to give some love to Nathan for being in the chat. Was at the game tonight, said it was electric. We appreciate you coming here to Sports Hub STL for all of your post-game content. This is the place to be. We want you guys to be a part of the show just as much as we are. We're going to go ahead, take this quick opportunity to tell you that the Blues Hub post-game show is sponsored by Hot Shots here on the Sports Hub STL, but it is presented by DraftKings. The crown is your. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits, better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So we talked a little bit, guys, about the struggles for the Blues to finish this game in the third period. We get into overtime, and the Blues get a power play, and who other than Robert Thomas to net his 20th goal of the season. Oh, was it a knife? Oh, was it a pretty one? And I'm not sure where Jacob's going, but it looks like he's
celebrating.
Maybe he's doing a little celebration back there, but
doing a parade.
A pretty one. And Kyrou on the assist. And I know this happened on Tuesday, but for the third straight season now, Robert Thomas over 50 assists, 20 goals now. Robert Thomas is elite. Shout it from the rooftops. Brandon, what did you see on the game winner?
Yeah, hey, real quick, Larry, thanks for tuning in from Nashville. I love Nashville.
Hey-o.
It's like my second home. I don't love the Predators, but I do love Nashville. Yeah, I mean, overtime. My goodness. I mentioned this earlier that I liked what I saw in that overtime because it wasn't just the power play, right? The call against Letang, was it weak? Was it not? Either way, it got in the way of the shot. It got in the way of him actually taking the shot off, and so they called it. If that's a playoff game, I don't know if they called it. We'll see, but we'll take it. Either way, the Blues were doing the little things. I mentioned it before. Sonny gets out there and takes a face-off on a 3-on-3. If we lose that draw, Sonny better get his butt off the ice as quick as possible because he is not keeping up on a 3-on-3 overtime. Mm-hmm. But he did his thing. He won the face-off, and then you guys know this. 3-on-3 hockey is all about possession. Mm-hmm. It's who has the puck and who keeps the puck. Who doesn't just have it, but who keeps it. The Blues got it done, and Thomas with an absolute snipe. I mean, an absolute a shot that you look at and you go, that isn't there was some traffic in front, but really, if you're going to beat a goalie from that distance in overtime, it's got to be on point. A lot of times you'll see something come on the rush or a breakaway here and there going up and down. I mean, he just stepped into a wrister and beat him. It was as simple as that. It was a good hockey goal, and it fired me up.
And it's what solidified not just you, but all of St. Louis, all of the Enterprise Center, and sent the Blues home and their fans home happy with a 5-4 victory in overtime over Pittsburgh. A couple people in the chat asking how is Holloway doing. Left the game late in the first period with a lower body injury. They said that it was precautionary, but we will find out more on Dylan Holloway likely tomorrow. Once they get him a chance to get on the ice and see kind of how he's feeling. So no big time update on Dylan Holloway yet, but we'll be keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that there's no big issues there. Let's take a look at some quick stats here before we take a look at scores around the league. The Blues outshot tonight, guys, 28-19. Is a little bit uncharacteristic for St. Louis to be on the lower end of the shot total here during this stretch since the Four Nations break. And I think that 28 shots is the second most that they have allowed in this since the Four Nations break. I think that may be even more impressive that I think they allowed 29 against Colorado a couple of days ago. And outside of that, still have not had anyone cross over 30 shots on goal since the Four Nations face-off. But I think the most impressive stat, in my opinion, tonight, gentlemen, was the face-off percentage. The Blues win 63.2% of the face-offs against Sidney Crosby's Penguins. I think I don't know the breakdown of who won the majority of them, but anytime that you have a guy like Sidney Crosby in the face-off circle, I mean, seeing a number like this just hops off the page at you. Do you guys not agree?
I mean, certainly. And this was something that was mentioned over and over again in the broadcast, and I could not agree more. I've always been a preacher of win the draw, win the game. And that's exactly what happened. Even when the Blues aren't getting shots, they're winning draws. They're creating great chances quick off of those draws. They're getting great opportunities breaking out. And today, again, you saw it where they continue to control the draw, and it worked their way up to push through and get the win tonight. And, obviously, I mean, you look, especially in that overtime. I'm
getting roasted. Sorry, Jacob. I'm getting roasted by Rocco. I am going to bring up Sundqvist faced off. You watch me.
Well, I mean, hey, look at the overtime, and after the first draw in the overtime, they lose it. The Penguins are able to clear it, but a lot of those big draws. I mean, we've seen it, especially throughout these stretches, is that they win the big time draws. We've seen it a lot. We've seen it. They win the draws when need be. They're doing an excellent job in the draws. And when you see not just Shen doing well against Sidney Crosby, arguably one of the best drawmen in the history of the NHL. I mean, it's Sundqvist as well. Robert Thomas getting in the mix. What can't you like about that? I mean, really.
Bobby Thomas was like Liam Neeson in the movie Taken, a cold-blooded assassin. Thank you for that one. That's billboard material right there. Hulk Hogan's
classic.
Let's go ahead and let's jump into some of the scores around the NHL tonight. What else is going on? I know last night, a couple of big games. The Minnesota Wild fell in overtime last night. That point knotted them up with the Blues. At both of them at 76 points and 76 games played, 89 points. Tonight around the league, the Calgary Flames currently up in the second intermission on the Anaheim Ducks by a score of 3-0. Winnipeg currently up on Vegas 3-0 as well. Edmonton and San Jose knotted at 1 in the first intermission. Let me see if there's anything else of importance tonight. Colorado wins pretty decisively over Columbus 7-3. So nothing crazy as far as of now on the standings, but we most definitely will keep an eye on the Calgary-Anaheim game if Anaheim is able to mount a third period comeback, as that one, the third period getting underway right now. So their playoff window is not entirely closed yet, but if the Blues continue to win, then it's going to get less and less likely every single game. Let's go ahead and take a look now at the Western Conference wild card standings as we sit here right now, gentlemen. The Blues holding the number one wild card spot once again after the win tonight. 91 points compared to the Wild's 89. Now, Minnesota does have a game at hand, and the Blues also with the point percentage in their advantage as well. 591 for St. Louis and a 586 for Minnesota. So that will be a fun stretch of games here, watching those two go at it, knowing what they're playing for potentially. There was a question earlier in the chat. I want to briefly get both of your thoughts as we begin to wrap up here, because it's kind of an interesting situation. I've heard a lot of mix as to who people would rather the Blues face in round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I've heard a lot more Vegas than I initially thought that I would. And the reason that it's interesting is because the number one wild card is going to face Vegas, which is the team that you'd rather not want. A lot of people are saying they'd rather not want them to face. So obviously you're always going to go for winning games. That's never not going to be the goal. But I'm curious if you guys identify with the majority of, I wouldn't say the majority. I would say, let me ask you this. Which side would you say you identify with? Would you rather face Winnipeg or Vegas? I'll start with you, Jacob.
I personally would rather have Vegas, to be honest. I've seen that Winnipeg team. I watched them play in Winnipeg in December against the Senators. They are a fantastic team. They move the puck very well. They're a gritty, Canadian style of play. I mean, they are just a different Jets team than I've ever seen before. And they're a team that personally kind of scare me. I've, seeing them play just the one game, fantastic. So I would rather see him play Vegas and kind of go through the Pacific, purely because and this is something that Curbs was talking about on 101 earlier today as well. Just that he thought there was a better route. There was, in terms of the recency, they've had great contests against a lot of the competition out there, especially in the Oilers and the Kings. So, I mean, Vegas, I think I think that would be an opponent I would rather see him play. And another thing too, I mean, and this is just, kind of the side of me that just is saying, I haven't seen anything from Vegas this year in terms of, big wins or superstar plays or whatever it is. Vegas doesn't have a lot of storylines behind that. And typically that just means they're playing good hockey, but not great hockey. And even though they hold on to that number one spot in the Pacific, they haven't really done much to outside of winning to say we're a competitor, in my personal opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong, they still play good hockey. I would rather see the Blues play Vegas though to go through the Pacific in the playoffs.
Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I think if you want to win the cup, you got to be good teams. For the fun of this broadcast, I mean, here's the thing. Jeff Merrick, a guy who used to be on Sportsnet, Hockey Canada guy, he always says in the playoffs, it's your goalie versus my goalie. It's as simple as that. I'm putting Bennington up against either one of Vegas's goaltenders against them. That's probably why I would go Vegas. I know people want to talk about, the Jets have a history of losing in the first round. I don't know if that's what you want to go off of, man. Let's take a little stroll through the park here. The Capitals were a team who saw a lot of heartbreak for years in the first round. Then they win the cup in 2018. The Blues in 2019, we win the cup. But for years, we were first round exit. The Dallas Stars make it to the Stanley Cup final. They were a first round exit for a lot of years during the COVID time. I mean, we could just keep going on and on. The Colorado Avalanche went through some heartbreak before they end up hoisting the cup. So I'm not going to go off of history because this Jets team's different than other teams in the past, and they're more experienced. I also think Hellebuck is a top goaltender. Obviously, Bennington got the most of them in the Four Nations face-off, but we're on the winning side of that this time. Bottom line is I'll take Bennington's goaltending over both teams. But if I had to choose one, I'd want to see Vegas. And it's a good point, too. If you win, guess who's waiting for you? Dallas, who's a team that I've had the entire year, them coming out of the West. And Colorado, who has gotten a complete makeover since the deadline. That team, out of the 12 forwards, I mean, you got 4 or 5 guys who have only been there for a couple months tops. So, yeah, I would rather see the Pacific Division. But if you want to win, you're going to have to play good teams. It's as simple as that.
Well, you mentioned Colorado. That is who comes into town next as the Blues try to make history and win their 12th consecutive game, which would be a franchise record. We haven't mentioned it yet, but the Blues did set a franchise record tonight. 10 straight wins at home. No Blues team in franchise history has ever done that. So most definitely quite the accomplishment there. Let's go ahead and let's quickly take a look at the schedule here coming up for St. Louis. Like I said, on Saturday to finish up this homestand, 6 o'clock puck drop against the Colorado Avalanche. And then they head back out on the road for their final road trip of the regular season. Winnipeg on Monday, Edmonton on Wednesday, and then Seattle is on Saturday. And then they'll finish up the regular season at the Enterprise Center on Tuesday, the 15th, against the Utah Hockey Club. So, we talked about this this softer stretch of games that the Blues had to towards the end of the regular season. That's really over, guys. It's going to get much more difficult here to wrap up. And you think you've learned a lot about these St. Louis Blues in the past few weeks. You may learn just as much in the next week and a half as you have in the last 3 to 4.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, hate to cut you off there, Brandon, but no, I think definitely agree with that because, I think the best way to put this, and I'll keep it short, so I'll toss it back to Brandon here. But I think it's just, any team, end of the season, doesn't matter if you're in the playoffs or not, there's always that last push for pretty much every team to win, because it's pretty much either A, we're pushing to get a good spot in the playoffs, continuing to control, or B, we want to be a spoiler, because why not? Because that's the best way to go out a lot of times to end the season. And, like you said, this is going to be I think it's been a completely different stretch than how people thought. And these last few games is going to be even more difficult.
We got to give a quick shout out before I let you go. Let you speak, Brandon. Big shout out to Luke. Wow. Thank you very much, Luke. Luke's out here feeding families, boys.
Come on, Luke. Luke.
Thank you for the donation. We greatly appreciate it, Luke. Wow. You're the man. Holy cow. The chat was blowing me up saying, let's go, Luke. I'm like, what did Luke do? I'm like, holy cow, Luke did something there. So thank you. We appreciate you, Luke. And the last thing I'll say on the playoff, who would you rather face in the first round? The last one of the night from Hulk Hogan's T-shirt. This Jets team isn't any different. It still spells the name Jets, which in the Hulk Hogan T-shirt dictionary means jokers.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Brandon, you wrap us up here, Brandon, with your final thought, and then we'll get out of here and we'll close this up. This final stretch of games for the Blues. What just how much we could learn from them.
Sure, I'll keep it brief. It's past my bedtime. Luke, thank you. I can now buy name brand cereal. Thank you, Luke. I'm going to get the name brand Apple Jacks, which is just awesome. Appreciate it. Yeah, man. I mean, if we haven't learned enough about this team, and said they're resilient and they're willing to outwork teams, and that's a formula you need. We have big defensemen this year. We have size. We have some good actual play from our centers, which is again a winning formula, and we have two goaltenders that we can rely on. That's a pretty good winning formula. Obviously, you put talent up against talent roster-wise. Do the Blues match up in every case? No. Are they overachieving right now? Absolutely. But man, we're learning that this team, this retool is coming to an end, my friends. It's time to play some playoff hockey.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is. You put the bow on top of what has been one heck of a present tonight. The Blues winning their 11th straight, and they go for the franchise record on Saturday. The post-game show will be right here on Sports Hub STL following what is hopefully a big celebration. We appreciate all of your interaction from the chat tonight. I think this has to be the longest post-game show that we have had. And listen, the only reason that we go this long is because you guys keep it going. So we appreciate your interaction. That's what we're all about here at Sports Hub STL. And we greatly appreciate you being a big part of the show tonight. And that is how we conclude tonight. From Brandon Gallegos, Jacob Stanoch, I am Ethan Hannaford. This has been the Blues Hub post-game show on Sports Hub STL. We will see you on Saturday night.